or as the elves would say, my Govana. Time for another installment of my review of the Rings of Power. The episode opens with Mount Doom erupting, and then it goes into the map and got Sauron's tendrils of evils crossing the map, looking menacing. The camera sweeps down into Khazad-dûm, and we go into a market scene where Durin and Disa trying to get used to their less than regal lives now that Durin has been cast out by his father and they haven't got as much money, so they're struggling to make ends meet. They've decided that they're going to work through this together and they're going to try and make the best of things, which is what they do. I did like the hustle and bustle of the market. It felt very lively. There was lots of dwarf men and women. It really gave you a feel of ordinary dwarven life rather than just seeing them as soldiers with big axes and digging in the mines and bringing jewels. You got a more sense of their domestic life. I also really liked how Disa sensed that there was something wrong in the mountain. It does make it feel like this mountain is a living thing. It's almost like a symbiont relationship. They take care of the mountain and the mountain takes care of them. And I really do like that. So Disa senses there's something wrong and she starts shouting, brace yourselves. The mountain shakes and this rock falls and all of a sudden the lights go out. Tolkien writes that in Khazad-dûm, in its heyday, they had shafts of light that would shine into the mountain and would give them the light that they needed. It was like a really beautiful thing. So to see all that light going out, it was almost like the life leaving the mountain. So this is devastating for the dwarves of Khazad-dûm. I think the collapse was really good. It's really unexpected. And Sauron's fingerprints are all over this. Now the next scene is with Galadriel. She is looking at her brother's memorial, his statue, and talking to him. Now this brother is Finrod Felagund. He is an amazing elf. He's now back in the Undying Lands. In fact, none of her brothers by this point are on Middle Earth. They've passed through death. And one of them is reportedly still in Mandos because the love of his life was a mortal and she went to wherever mortals go, and so he won't leave Mandos until the world is anew and hopes that when the world is made new that he can be with her. So it's sad. But anyway, we have Galadriel. She's looking at her statue of her brother. And then Celebrimbor shows up, and I'm like, well, that can't be right, because Celebrimbor is in Eregion, so this has got to be a dream. There's just something about Galadriel's makeup. It looks a little too good, and she looks a little too perfect. And we're right, it is a dream, and it's turning rather nasty. Because remember I mentioned about all those tendrils earlier on the map? All these tendrils also turn up in her dream, and they're sort of investing in, and they basically kill Celebrimbor in the dream, you know, fill him full of holes, and he's stuck up against a tree, and yeah, not nice. And it's almost like he's warning her through the dream, but he's also blaming her as well in the dream, and so there's more of her guilt playing on her again. So yeah, very icky dream. And the thing is, she was dreaming, it was more than a dream really, because she was actually dreaming or going into a vision while she was in a meeting with Gil-galad and some of the other commanders, and they were deciding what they were going to do about the Eregion and the possibility of Sauron being in Eregion and how to warn Celebrimbor. And they decide to send a message. I did like the dream sequence because I felt it raised attention, and also it shows you how the ring was working, that the ring was having an effect on her. It was warning her. It was saying, look, you know, not right in Eregion and it needs dealing with. So far, I'm really liking the elven scenes and what they're doing with them. They do feel more Tolkienian than some of the other scenes, which we'll get onto later. So after this meeting with the commanders, Gil-galad and Galadriel, they have this conversation about how the rings are affecting them, that they're giving them visions and insights, and that these rings are enhancing their powers. So we come to Eregion. It's all lovely, happy clappy, nice happy creative elves. And of course we've got one little fly in the ointment in Eregion, and that is Halbrand, who's sitting there like the little stalker he is, waiting to be let in. Rain or shine, Halbrand sits there going, well, you're going to let me in eventually. He immediately pours on the manipulation, because Celebrimbor sends his assistant, Mirdarnia, who we'll come to later, to tell Halbrand he's not welcome, please go away, really don't want to treat with you. And he starts working on her and makes her feel sorry for him, showing off his wounds that he made sure the orcs gave him before he left for Eregion. So he's working her already, and she goes back and she says, you're looking really injured. I think you need some help. We're nice elves here. We don't, that kind of thing. And you're just like, yeah, you're sucked in. So he worms his way to the hearts of the people of Eregion. So he's getting his little foot in the door. He's like some scary Jehovah's Witness. Except he's more, have you heard the word of Melkor, Morgoth? He charms Mirdarnia, who is this assistant of Celebrimbor's. Now, have a little bit of issue here. Lovely girl and everything, but Mirdarnia is not an elvish name. Sorry, you don't end an elvish name with an A. Certainly not if they're female, anyway. Not one of the naming traditions of any of the elves, whether it be Noldor, Teleri, God knows what the Vanyar do, but apart from sit on a mountain and play tambourines or something, them have A at the end of their names as a naming convention. So that's really sloppy work there on the writing. Come on, fanfickers like myself can take the trouble to research names and get really good fantastic elvish names. Professional writers should be able to do the same. So rant over. Next season, guys, get your elvish naming conventions right. Anyway, we're rant over. So those messengers who were sent from Eregion are dead, of course. Something with chains has dragged away their bodies. And that message to Celebrimbor never got there. Oh dear. Poor old Celebrimbor. Then we are transported to Rune, where we have this rider who is on a horse. We can't really see him properly because he's a silhouette. And he's riding into the sunrise. Sunset, I'm not really sure. I think he's riding into the sunrise. East is meant to be where the sunrise is from. So one would think this is probably why. I've got to say, some of the buildings look more like they were on the set of Star Wars than in Rune or Middle-earth. They just look like the outside of a cantina or something in Tatooine rather than Rune. But, the look that they've gone with, I'm not entirely sure why. And then we have this ritual with these moth ladies again from last season. Not the same ones this time. The person in charge seems to be this wizard, played by Kieran Hines, who's kind of a Saruman, if one has put a word for it, once Saruman turns bad. But the thing is, Saruman originally is a good guy and he turns bad. So I'm hoping this is not Saruman, because that would not work. I mean, Saruman did go into the east, however, certainly had the image of being a good guy when he got back from the east, and up until the Third Age that he started doing the dodgy stuff. So not quite sure who he is, apart from he's called Dark Wizard. So ritual. There's a girl there, and she's got all these moths, and she lets all these moths go, and then somebody comes along with a big knife and slices the centre of her hands to let the blood flow, so they can bring back one of those people that was in last season who got blown away and turned into a moth. She reports back that the Istar is coming. We get this guy in the scary gold Halloween mask who turns up and reports to the Dark Wizard that where the stranger and his companions are. And he asks for his face to be healed because the Dark Wizard has done something to his face. And he asks for it to be healed in return for capturing the Istar. So we don't know what's wrong with their faces, other than they need to cover them in some mask that looks like it came out the pound shop and has been sprayed gold. Then we go to the stranger and Nori and Poppy, and they're having a bit of a fun time until they realise that someone is approaching, and then they all go and hide. I've been looking for a name for the stranger, and I just find this boring and tedious, and I have a nasty feeling where we're going to end up on this, and I'll be bitterly disappointed if he's not a blue wizard. I'm afraid that storyline just really bores the pants off of me. Also, in regards to this sort of mystery box thing of who is the stranger, it's boring. Mystery boxes are boring. We don't need it. It's just kind of an insult to the fans. It makes us feel like we're a bit stupid, and we're not. Well, I'm certainly not. Move back to Khazad Dûm, and everybody's suffering because of the light situation and the fact that all the crops are failing. And you've got to feel for them. This is a disaster for them. So the Stone Singers, Disa and a couple of her companions, go to try and restore light to the mountain by singing to the mountain to get that restoration. But unfortunately, it fails. And they're still left in the dark. I do like Disa. I think she's lovely. I do feel like she's sort of very much the heart and soul of the mountain. And she's just something really awesome and strong about her. And she's so loving and supportive to her husband. And it's just, I think it's really nice that we have this sort of dwarven relationship. It's not many dwarves actually get married. 2/3 of dwarves do not marry. The next scene, we come to Elrond, who is working in Círdan's shipyard, probably to get a break from everything that's been going on in Lindon, and Galadriel turns up to convince him to come to Eregion with her and to come on Celebrimbor, because Galad has said you can't go alone, you need to take a team of people with you because you are very vulnerable to Sauron. So you shouldn't go on your own. You could put yourself in even more danger, especially when he starts playing his Jedi mind tricks. I like the tension between Elrond and Galadriel with this meeting. They're really angry with her. He really feels that she's let him down. And she has to sort of her vulnerability here. She has to admit that she's made mistakes. Elrond is having none of it, of course, but Círdan then has this lovely chat with him and gets him to really think about, not everybody's perfect. Elrond, you heard that Rumiel was a drunkard. Now, if you know anything about elves, you'll know it takes an awful lot to get them drunk, unless you're a wood elf. You can't seem to hold their liquor, those wood elves, but a high elf would take a lot to drink before they sort of felt the effects. So for Círdan to say that Rumiel was a drunkard means that guy must have put a hell of a lot of booze away. A little pep talk from Círdan does the trick. He's obviously using the ring here to influence, because he's got the ring that he later gives to Gandalf. Elrond agrees to go and help. We'll come back to that because it's not quite going to go how Galadriel expects. Then we're back with the Harfoots and the stranger, and they are suffering from the lack of wet stuff. They've got no water. They're starting to get really parched now. They go to this well, but also the scary trick-or-treat masked people turn up. The stranger then uses his power to get rid of them and causes a huge wind, and unfortunately he blows his friends away. And so we're left wondering what has happened to them. Are they alive? Are they dead? Little half-wits flying on the wind. Whee! Then we get back to Erebor. I really love the way Charlie Vickers plays Sauron. So creepy, you cannot help watch how Bran worms his way into the forge, and he's going, "Oh, Galadriel realised I wasn't who I said I was. She wasn't very happy with me, and so she threw me out," making himself the victim here, of course. And then he does the whole stars in their eyes thing. "Tonight, Celebrimbor, I'm gonna be Anatar, Lord of Gifts." So he sort of Celebrimbor turns around, he can't see him anywhere, and turns out he's actually in the forge, and he comes out of the forge and he's all dressed up as Anatar. So it really did feel like, if any of you have ever watched Stars in Their Eyes, where they open the doors and there's all the smoke that comes out, and then the person who's gone in, because obviously the cuts and everything, the person who's got in comes out the magic doors and they're dressed up as a pop star, and that's the one where they sort of sing and look like the pop star that they're portraying, and they always go, "Nephew, I'm going to be Elvis Presley," and they'll go behind the doors and come out as Elvis Presley and do the song, and whoever's the most popular will come back the sort of following week or whatever. So yeah, Stars in Your Eyes moment where he comes out. Yeah, and it kind of looked like Jesus Christ coming out of the forge, but of course we all know, the devil in disguise. Oh, yes, you are. No, that was quite fun. It's sort of very much a devil in disguise moment. And I was just talking about Elvis, all ties in really, doesn't it? He's come out the furnace and he's like, "Well, Anatar, I'm Lord of Gifts, or the giver of gifts, and I'm going to help you make some rings that are going to save the world. You and I, Celebrimbor, are going to save the world." So this is very seductive to Celebrimbor, because obviously Celebrimbor is the grandson of Feanor, the greatest elf. He was the greatest creating elf. He created some amazing things. Unfortunately, he had a bit of a kinslaying problem, shall we say. So yeah, I don't like him. We're not talking about Feanor at the moment, we're talking about Rings of Power. So overall, I did enjoy this episode. I would give it an 8 out of 10. So, week it was 7 out of 10. This week I enjoyed this one a little bit more. Still, as I say, Half-Foot and Stranger are dragging it down a little bit. It's just that the storyline just lacks something. Everything else really pleased with, especially Dwarves and Elves. I hope you enjoyed my little take on Rings of Power Season 2, Episode 2. And hopefully I shall get some tarot stuff out pretty soon. But I've had a few ups and downs with filming schedules because we've had friend round last week. We're still getting to a routine with my youngest, who's sort of starting special school. And also my older two are at college and they're in and out of the house all the time. And if I want to get filming done, I really need either everybody out the house or to film really late at night. And a lot of the time, evenings are too tiring. My brain is too tired to film. I'll film these when I can. I'll get the tarot filming done when I can. Till then, just hold fire and we'll catch up soon. So take care, look after yourselves. And a fire, Melanie.